The truth about becoming a top producing agent and scaling your business is that it's actually not that difficult. It really just boils down to doing the right things every day, every week, every month, and making sure that you're on a proven path that's going to lead you to your goals. But the problem for most agents is that they don't know what they should be doing on a daily basis, and thus they feel overwhelmed, they feel confused, and they feel lost. And so today I brought on Sheldon Drover, who went from previously struggling as an agent to becoming one of the top producers in his entire province just by doing the right activities every day. And today he kindly breaks down how he does that, exactly how he prepares every day, the activities that he's doing, how to reverse engineer your goals so that you can do those 2 deals a month or whatever it might be for your situation. Not only that, he's now gotten to the point where he's a top producing agent just by leveraging his sphere. And he breaks down his very simple process for nurturing his database that anybody can do, even if you're not leveraging a CRM properly. So 2 quick things before bringing on Sheldon. Number 1, I'm going to link his content below so that you can check him out and follow him, but also I'll link his calendar below in case you would like to chat with him about partnering with him and getting his support for free. But if your business is struggling right now, you're feeling a little lost and overwhelmed, and you want clarity, then this is going to be the conversation that gives you exactly that. So without further ado, let's bring on Sheldon and talk to you about proper daily planning, making sure that every day is productive, not busy, and that you make sure that you smash your goals every single month and year. All right, guys, welcome back to another exciting conversation where today we're going to be really diving into some topics that not a lot of people talk about, but make the biggest difference in your business. So Sheldon, really excited to have you here to kind of talk about planning and being prepared and making sure that you're productive, but also some strategies that have helped you really kind of leverage your sphere in order to become wildly successful. So excited to have you here, man, to unpack some things I know a lot of people are curious about, but not many people are talking about.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be a part of this and that. As you mentioned, I'm Sheldon Drover. I'm currently in the Greater Moncton, New Brunswick area, where I've been a realtor for just over 3.5 years now, and with EXP Realty in the last 8 months, essentially, and taken insights from yourself and Louis Gold and a few others have been the difference over the past year for my business taking off.
Awesome, man. Well, yeah, it's been really exciting to see that, recently you've been ranked on top producer lists for the entire, province. And for anybody that's in the States, that's like being one of the top producers, not just in your market center, but of the entire state. So you're doing incredibly well. You're building momentum. But I think one of the things that I love about how you're building so much momentum is you're focusing on the fundamentals and the basics that a lot of people overlook. And so I'd love for you to start to kind of unpack what was those game-changing decisions that you made and some of the things that you started applying to your business to see such massive growth over those last 8 months.
So, one of the biggest things is taking time and putting it in my schedule to plan not only my next day, my week, but also the month. So, at the end of every month is a date where I sit down and assess what happened in the previous month, and I plan the next month. I do that every Saturday evening or Sunday morning, where I do it with a weekly check-in, a war room where it's just myself. I sit down, review what I did right, what I did wrong, because it's all about the course correction. So then at the end of that week, if things had worked, why change something that's worked for me that previous week? So then if there's work that needs to be done, I course correct accordingly, and I build out my power list for the upcoming week so that at the end of every day, I can sit down and go, okay, this is what's been done today. This is what needs to be done tomorrow. And I build out my plan for a day by day so that I'm ready to attack and ready to engage. It's not the prettiest of things, but it is the basics of the basics. Plan and prepare. So if you fail to plan, then you're just going up the wrong road.
Yeah, 100%. There's a lot of things that I really want to dive into there with you. And first of which, before getting into those course corrections, because I do the same and it's made an absolute massive difference in my business. But, I've got my little notebook here. And I always like to show this because you kind of brought up the power list. And this is what I built my entire business on. And you can see that everything's crossed off, from the last couple of days. I'd love for you to kind of dissect what the power list is and what are some of the activities that you would be putting on your power list on any given day.
So the power list essentially is 5 items that's going to move my business. It could be as simple as a showing that I have to do with a specific client. So I can look at my list and know when my showings that coming week is. But I also try to target one big task every week to move the needle forward. So this week, my big task is my database, and I'm in the process of overhauling it and going back to KV course. So what I've essentially done is one day this week was go in and import all my contacts from Lofty into KV Core. Then my next day, the next task was to actually take out my list and see if there's any holes in it in my database. And then the next 3 days is I have it alphabetized. So from A to H is the names that I'm working on today. Tomorrow is going to be the next set. So I to O, and then the final letters is going to be Friday. So then I have, by the end of this week, I'll have my database up to date, ready to go, have all the pertinent information that I need, whether it's when we did deals together, whether it's they have kids, whether it's where they're married, what their address is, their phone numbers. So that way, by the end of this week, if I have missing pieces, then now I have a game plan for next week to create my touch points on my sphere of influence so that I can talk to them, I can interact with them, and I can make that contact so that we can start building that trust and see where they're at in their journey.
Yeah, it's such a simple concept that so many people overlook. I find, and you're on the calls with me, with Atlas and with the Wolfpack, and you constantly hear people saying that they feel like they're not making any progress. They feel like their business is stuck. They feel like their tires are spinning. And this is such a simple way to just guarantee that your business has progress every single day. 5 income producing activities every day that you map out the night before. So when you wake up, you know exactly what you need to do. And I find that any time that I've ever gotten away from the power list, my business has been chaos. I'm confused. I wake up overwhelmed. I don't know what I should be doing, in which order, and it's exhausting. But when you just wake up and you know what you need to do, especially, that concept of by the end of this week, your CRM is going to be dialed. That takes most people 3 months to figure out because they don't properly plan around it. And just the fact that you've kind of segmented it like that, I think is really powerful. And I encourage everybody to, apply this to their business and consider writing it out, checking it off, and making a point of that. Now, when it comes to the course correction and when it comes to your planning, I think this is really, really important before we dive into some of the tactical things you're doing with your sphere and touch points and things like that. But what do those days look like for you when you're kind of auditing how things are going versus how things need to be going? Because I constantly hear agents that are not doing these audits to the point where essentially they're just hanging on by a thread. They just keep doing what they're doing, hoping it's going to work out at some point, but they're not taking an intentional approach to saying, is it working? Is it not? And what do I need to be doing differently? What does that whole planning session look like for you?
So I take it into account of, I've been part of something called Wake Up Warrior in the past, and the war room that I go through with it, I look at not only my business, but also my body being in balance. So, who I am, what I'm doing, and I review each component tactically. So, if I can't be honest with myself and where I stand personally, then I can't be truly honest with what I'm doing within my business. So, I have to come to grips and face the man in the mirror or the king in the mirror, whatever you want to look at it, or woman in the mirror, depending on who you are. And you got to be brutally honest with yourself at times. And as difficult as that can be, and that's been a part looking back over the previous 3 years, not being truthful to myself has probably lost a lot of potential business, and not being truthful on the work that I was doing has decreased my capacity of growth. And instead of growing in the first 2.5 years, it took facing the facts and really diving in and facing the truth that of what the work I was putting in and putting forth to really push me to the limit and start taking control of my business.
Yeah, it makes complete sense. And I'd love to kind of dive a little bit deeper on that when it comes to being honest with yourself, because I feel like a lot of people struggle with that. And, this year for me has been, without question, the biggest year of personal growth and development and maturity that I've ever faced. But it took me looking at the mirror and saying, how can you be a better person? How can you show up better? How can you be, more honest and show up with more faith and really put forth the best version of you? But it takes a difficult conversation with yourself and humility to do that. And I find a lot of people are avoiding that tough conversation with themselves because they don't want to, come to grips with the fact that they probably could be doing much better if they were being genuine. And so what did some of those conversations look like for you, in the sense of maybe you find one example of saying, here was something I was doing in my business that you saw in an audit, but I'm cutting that out, or I didn't really try, or an area of your life where you kind of had that humility to look within and say, I'm not showing up like I know that I could be.
Definitely one of the areas is conversations that I was saying I was having, but truly I was not having them. I coach hockey, I coach multiple teams, so I'm around a lot of people and I'm involved in the sport, but also my daughter has an extremely rare condition, so I speak a little bit on that. And conversations that I have with individuals with special needs, families, or stuff like that, I was talking to them, but I wasn't really engaging in the conversations with them to be able to put myself out there. So when I truly audited the conversations that I was having, was there opportunity within those conversations that could have extended my growth? Could it have moved the needle forward? And when I truly stepped back and looked at the conversations I was having, yes, I can count it as a conversation, but it shouldn't have been counted as a conversation for my business because it wasn't centered around that. So once I started instigating conversations with those that are known to me, then I was able to start counting that as conversations towards the business when I was actually having conversations specific to real estate, to what they're looking for, where they're at in their process, do they like where they live, so on. And as I started having those conversations or listening for conversation, then I was able to truly engage with individuals about the business and what need to be done to make myself so I can be true to the metrics that I was actually putting down.
Yeah, I think that all boils down to intention, right? And how intentional are you with your business? Or, we even just on the conversation that we had yesterday with the Wolfpack of, being very honest with yourself about the level of intent that you have with any activity that you're doing, right? So we hear all these, people say, well, I've been posting on YouTube, but how intentional have you been with getting better on camera, with doing your best to put out the best video humanly possible and being a student of the game? Or, you went door knocking, but did you intentionally do everything that you could in order to get contact information from every door that you knocked? Or did you just knock to knock, or have a conversation to have a conversation? And a lot of people kind of get consumed by the KPIs around the activity, but not focusing on the intentions and the outcome that they're looking to achieve. And so I think it's really important for people to be able to reflect on not just the activities that they're doing, but the level of intent and effort they have within those activities, right?
Without a doubt. And when it comes to intention and that, there was a speaker at EXPCon Canada last month, Ibrahim, I can't remember his last name, but he spoke on 5 things with intention. And the last one, if you're slowing down or if you're on top of the hill and you're not intentional on the work that you're doing, it's only one direction to go, and that's downhill. So if you truly are not intentional about what you're doing and what you're implementing, then you're just going to be falling behind. And it'll become a point where all that you're doing is going straight downhill instead of going up the mountain to the peak where you want to truly be.
Yeah, we talked about this is the surest way to fail is to give up, right? And you see this all the time of, people that start with their content and they start posting, but they don't get results within a certain window of time that they're expecting. And they're like, I feel like I should just give up. And it's like, well, if you give up, you're guaranteed to fail. If you keep going and you improve and you audit like you've done, you actually have an opportunity to succeed. But so many people take that route of guaranteed failure because they just quit. They just give up. They don't even try. And I think that's, one of the big problems with the industry is a lot of people are used to just quitting, and that instant gratification, not looking at the alternative of maybe auditing their business and saying, what could I be doing better? So before we kind of segue into sphere, because I know that that's always a hot topic and a big conversation with a lot of people, I'd like to kind of wrap up this conversation related to planning. And so, it's the earlier part of the month as we're filming this. Let's say it was the first day of the month or the last day of the month, and somebody's looking to say, okay, I'm coming into a new month and I want to make sure that I crush it. I've been slacking off. I've been distracted. I've been overwhelmed. I've been in the gutter. But this month's going to be different. How would you approach that kind of daily, weekly, monthly planning and auditing in order to make sure that by the end of this month, it looks drastically different than the previous?
So I would look at essentially at what am I wanting to achieve over the next month. So once I have that big goal of the month goal, and I have it wrote on a whiteboard, I have 2 whiteboards in my office that I take all this down, but start with the big one. So where do I want to be at the end of the month? And from that, so if it's, I want to have X number of deals in my pocket, I want to have 2 listings, and I want to have 2 accepted offers. Well, now I know where my end goal is. What do I need to do to achieve that weekly? So that would essentially mean I need to have a listing agreement 1 every 2 weeks, and I need to have a accepted offer 1 of 2 weeks. So take each one of those individually. First, with the actual accepted offers, I'm going to focus more on my buying clients. So who do I have as buying clients currently? Where are they in their stage? Are they a red hot client that's ready to do the deal right now, or are they still in that slow motion where they're just searching? Then I can target my efforts towards those individuals specifically. As for what I need to do, well, I need to be in contact with those people once, twice, 3 times per week to make sure they're top of mind. So now I know where my target sphere, my target client for that month, who I need to work with. Then on the flip side of that, I look at now I want to get into the listings. What do I need to do to gain those 2 listings? How many conversations do I need to have? How many doors do I need to knock? I am not a door knocker. I'm not going to, so that wouldn't be in my sphere. But for someone else, how many doors am I going to have to knock? And target a specific area and go through those doors. How many conversations am I going to have? How many phone calls am I going to have? Have I reached out to my sphere? Do they know anyone? So once I have the big goal, then I can back it off to, okay, this is what needs to be done for the week. And then I take it week by week. Here's what needs to be done over those days to get me to my week's goal. Here's what needs to be done each week to get me to my month goal. And then that's how I build and plan accordingly.
Yeah, I think it's really just getting clarity on the small activities that people need to do. I think a lot of people, where they go wrong when it comes to goal setting is they get so focused on the goal, but not the tasks that lead to the goal, right? So they're so focused on the 2 deals that month, and they're way less focused on what should be the priority, which is maybe they choose door knocking, for example, cold calling or content, but we use door knocking. Well, if you need to door knock in order to get those 2 deals per month, a lot of people aren't consistent with the knocking, but still hope the 2 deals per month come to life. And so, one of the things that made a massive difference in my business was when I started focusing less on the goal and more just on the consistent activities that if I know I do it for long enough will get me to the goal. So I don't even care about the 2 deals. I just know that I need to knock for 3 hours a day every single day. And if I do that, more than 2 deals will come over time. And I think if you could start to put emphasis and focus on the activities that you need to do that will lead to the goal will come much quicker instead of just continuing to focus on the goal itself.
Without a doubt. And the other side to it is too many people truly focus on, I'll use baseball, the home run, that one swing of the bat, the home run. Will they happen? Without a doubt, you're going to come across that home run swing. But if I hit single after single after single after single, it's not the prettiest, but it's still going to get the job done. And it's creating consistency in my behavior. And consistency is going to create the momentum. And once the momentum starts, it's very hard to slow down when you have the consistency behind it. And coming from, originally I'm from Labrador, so it's cold. We get a lot of snow. And actually last week they had snowfall up there. I'm no longer there, but you get the point of once that ball gets rolling down a hill, you ain't stopping it. And that's where the consistency in it is the mundane activities. It's not the prettiest. It's not going to drive focus. It's not going to be what people want out of it. But that consistency of behavior is what truly is going to change your business and make it grow to what you desire.
100%, man. I think you just gave people some insight as to where the accent is from. So now they know the truth. You're a newfie. And so I love it. And so let's kind of transition to that next phase of the conversation about Sphere, because Sphere is, kind of the be all end all goal for most agents to be able to build momentum and become a top producer based on their Sphere. And you've done just that, right? I've seen the list that you're getting recognized on. You're building a lot of momentum, and the majority of that is coming from your Sphere. So how are you approaching nurturing your sphere? What are you doing on, any sort of frequent cadence and basis? How do you approach leveraging that sphere to generate more business?
So every month I review where my clients are or my sphere comes from essentially. And it's even individuals that are not currently buying. Have I made a touch point with them? So if I take out my database, I I have 200 and something individuals on my database. It's only going to be essentially 20 minutes for me to go down through and say, okay, have I spoke to this individual in the past 30 days? If not, then they're part of the first week. So I try to maintain that I have a touch point, whether it's a text message, a phone call, an email to every single individual in my database or my sphere so that I'm staying top of mind. And that way, with each one of those touch points, then I can grow and build. But not only that, I'm getting conversations from them that, hey, my friend is thinking about it. Would you be willing to speak with them? And it could be as simple as even a Facebook or social media private message, Instagram, any of that message that's going out to them. But once a month, I sit down with my list and make sure that every individual has been touched, has been contacted. And this is one of the reasons why I'm trying to dial in my CRM is now I can note it. Before, I wasn't making the notes of what the conversation was. So taking that aspect to it's just going to step up my game a little bit more so that I can stay top of mind a little bit more, but also more engaging. Or there might be a life event that happens within for one of my clients. Their kids might be graduating, their kid might be going to university, they might have had a sickness. So it gives me that time frame to look back quickly and say, okay, here's what I got to touch on, here's what I got to do. I have just recently, I have a client that their daughter is graduating high school. So I found out when the graduation is. So it's put in as a note in my phone that, hey, reach out to send congrats and hope all is well with her graduation day. So it's simple things like that with my sphere and making sure the touch points is there.
Yeah, there's two things that I'd love to kind of address there, and the first, you kind of just touched on it, but I'd love to go, maybe with a couple more examples. One of the things most agents are curious about is how are you following up with people? And what are you saying? Whether you're doing a text, a call, an email, when you look at your average month, what kind of message would you be sending, or what would you say on the phone to somebody to be able to knock that touch point off on the monthly basis?
I'm just myself. It's plans. I don't think about what that exact touch point will be until I actually do it. And I'm just sincere and authentic with who I am. I am an individual that my language and that's not normal to a few people. So I try to keep my dialect on point. And I've had individuals that I used to do the automation for my touch points, and they know it's not me. So the key thing is being authentic. And if you are doing the automation aspect behind it, review it before you start to implement the automation so it is your dialect, your voice, your conversation. And it's as simple as, hey, just reaching out, haven't spoken in a while, hope all is well with you, and don't hesitate to reach out if there's any questions. Uh, that type of message is to individuals that I've worked with. They know how I operate. They know that that's my dialect, and they can reach, reach out at any point to me. As for just following up, it could be as simple as, hey, just wanted to say congrats to Jenny on graduating this past week and hope the ceremony went well and you enjoyed it with her.
Yeah, I think that's why it's important to be able to have those notes based on the conversations that you've had, and be able to genuinely show interest in what's happening in your clients' lives, and not treating it transactionally, but rather treating it in terms of a relationship. And when people can tell that you genuinely care, they're a lot more open to having that dialogue, instead of, them kind of making that assumption that, hey, here's Sheldon again, just trying to get another deal, versus you actually checking in on them and genuinely caring. And so I think that's important.
And at the end of the day, there's going to be people. I've worked with individuals that we didn't get along. I'm not going to be everyone's cup of tea. I don't try to be. I don't plan to be. And I'll tell any individual that I'm meeting for the first time, am I the only person that you're meeting with? Yes, no. Hey, I suggest you speaking with other individuals. If you're looking to sell your home, there's nothing wrong with interviewing 2 or 3 people to see what type of match it is going to be. And a lot of times that takes people back, because I'm saying, hey, create competition for. No, I'm saying I'm here for you. And if I'm not the best individual that's going to correlate with you, then you don't want that. I don't want that. And I'm only here for a paycheck then, instead of looking out for your best interests. And when they realize that you are looking out for their best interest, then the hard conversations that come up in the real estate world, whether it's price reduction, whether it's what your operating plan is, what you're doing for them, those conversations suddenly become a heck of a lot easier, because they know that you are there for them, and it's not all about you. It's the focus is on what you can do for them and how to move the needle, whether it's their buying process, selling process. You're looking out for them and not yourself.
Yeah, it makes complete sense. And I think it's good to see too that, you built your business on a sphere, and being able to leverage that with very, very simple touch points, but not even fully leveraging a CRM to its fullest extent. I think a lot of people in the industry kind of take the stance of, if I can't do it perfectly, I'm not going to do it at all. And for me, at least, I know when I got started in real estate and when I did my first few transactions, I was operating everything off of a Google Sheet. And then I eventually moved over to Boomtown and different CRMs and things like that, and KV Core EXP. But in the beginning, I just did something, because something's better than nothing, and most agents are doing nothing. And so when you start looking at it, it's really not much of an exhausting effort to get ahead of what most agents or your competition in your local market's doing, because most choose that opportunity of doing nothing versus just being consistent with something. And when you start looking at how to build momentum, it's those small incremental activities that really do compound over time to give you that momentum that you're talking about.
Yeah. And once I got out of my own head of having to make everything perfect, that's actually when my business took off.
Yeah, it makes complete sense. And so, let's say there's an agent, because the last, 6, 12, 18 months for a lot of people has not been an easy road. But there's people like you and many others in the group that are building massive momentum and having the best years of their careers and doing exceptional. And so if somebody's watching this right now and they're feeling kind of down and out, in the gutter, not where they want to be, what's your piece of advice to them today to say, okay, going forward, here's how we can paint a different picture?
Take a look at yourself and what is one thing that you're doing well. When you focus on the positive side and not comparing yourself to others, then you can truly start to build your momentum. So take one thing. What are you doing today that can move the needle? Repeat that tomorrow. Repeat that the following day. Then, after 5 days, okay, what is one thing that I can implement this week? It's not about the instant gratification in this business. It is a long play. It's the slow play. Unfortunately, yes, you're going to have some that's going to knock it out right away. But those that stay in the industry, it's all about that small incremental growth, as you say, and you focus on what can I do today to call it a success. If you complete that, you get a check mark. You do the same thing tomorrow. What do I need to do today to get my check mark? It don't have to be massive action. It can be something as simple as making 5 phone calls to my sphere. Did you do that today? Yes. Do that again tomorrow. If you do that for the next 4 weeks, 5 days a week, you made 5 calls each day. Now you've just made 100 calls more in this past month than what you did previously. All because you took 10 minutes to make those 5 calls and you make that check mark. And I guarantee if you make 100 calls in the next month, and it don't have to be cold calls, it can be to people you know, friends that you've dealt with, people you went to school with previously, people that you meet at the grocery store or wherever you have those 5 contacts, you're going to get something from it by the end of the month.
100%, man. I agree completely. It's those simple activities that compound over time. And doing something is going to get you a heck of a lot further than doing nothing. And I think people just need kind of that opportunity to realign and start from scratch and be able to build a different style of business going forward. So the last thing that we always like to talk about, Sheldon, is, you and I are now partners, and you've made the conscious decision to, join us at EXP and in our group specifically. So I'd love for you to maybe unpack what led to that decision and what it's been like for you in your business and knowing that people have an opportunity to partner with both you and myself.
So Jenny Selly is the individual, and conversations with Jenny and seeing what she was doing in our market, seeing what she was doing in the industry. She has changed the game for a lot of individuals, but being surrounded by like-minded people and being able to grow, being part of the community, there is so many benefits that have come from it. I had a good situation at my previous brokerage. I'm not going to lie, it was great. I had good people around, but the belief of everyone's there to help you was not there. And walking into EXP, it was one of the skeptical, but truly embracing what EXP is. It is the platform where what you desire can become your reality. Whether it is working with other individuals, having collaborations like this with yourself, being in rooms with the CEO of the company. Just last month, I was at EXPCon Canada, and being around so many high producers that the focus wasn't on them. It was, what can I do to help you get better? I had the opportunity to speak with Leo Pereira, the CEO of EXP, and it was just myself and him, chance opportunity in an elevator. And the first question from him was, what are we doing that you like, and what's something we can do better for you? So having that conversation and that mindset of Yeah, we're realtors, we're individuals, we're here to help, but what do you want from us so that we're better at our jobs? And that's the mindset that people have within this brokerage, within EXP. And then add on top of it the mastermind, the weekly mastermind calls with yourself, with Connor, uh, the videos that we get, the training we get. It it feels like you're walking up to a standard water hose that's just been connected to the fire hydrant, and you actually have to take a few minutes and step back and go, okay, this is really happening. They weren't bullshitting when they say they're here for you, they want to see you grow, they have all this training material. Now, what do I need to do to implement it to take my business to the next point and be who I want to be? And that's not even touching into the point of who you're surrounded by. That's just walking in the door. Here's what you get. Here's where you start. If you want this, your reality, your dreams can truly become your reality if you're willing to do what is asked of you, or willing to put the work in to move your business to where you want to go. And for myself, I came in with a colleague that I consider a mentor, Lenny Boudreau. Both me and him came to EXP at the same time, but we're surrounded with incredible individuals, not only company wide, but here in New Brunswick. We have our weekly call that we do with just the New Brunswick Wolfpack members, that we're holding one another accountable to see each one of us grow and become better and be part of not only the top producers in our own province, but we're all aiming to be top producers within Canada and EXP generally. So, who I've been able to surround myself with within this company is where I give credit to why my production have changed and took off, because I'm I believe that I'm chasing certain individuals, and I'll name Jenny Selly as one of them. She sets the bar extremely high, and if you don't want to put the work in, then there's no opportunity to grow and see what is truly capable.
I love it, man. I think it's incredible to see what you guys have done, the culture that you guys have created, and the fact that you genuinely are there to help each other. And I think that's, what we continue to strive to do. And anybody that decides to partner with you gets, my help, Jenny Selly, 3-time Icon Agent's help, and your support. And it's this collaborative environment that allows you to get the best training, the best support, the best sense of community and culture in order to build your business and take it to the next level. And the best part is it's all free. So again, Sheldon, thank you so much for coming on today, sharing your blueprint. I know that kind of shifted mindset of planning, preparation, auditing is going to be a game changer for those who decide to apply it. And I can't wait to see you continue to become not just a top producer in New Brunswick,
Much
but also
appreciated.
across Canada. So guys, if you got any value from this, please make sure you smash the like button. And if you have any other questions for Sheldon, drop a comment. We'll make sure to answer all of them. And we'll see you guys in the next video.